Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And this news update for World of Warcraft holds some potentially controversial information, as there have been some data mining moving into 10.1.5 involving hidden Tier 3 transmog crafting, which is hinting at the fact that these sets from Naxxramas may be craftable in the next patch. Currently, the only way to get them would have been to get them in vanilla WoW. With the original Naxxramas before it was moved to Wrath of the Lich King in Ice Crown, or the black market auction house. And some players have spent millions upon millions of Dr. Evil gold to be able to get these mogs from the black market auction house. So by enabling them to be crafted, I would assume relatively easily, given how easy a lot of the current crafting is really going to undermine players who have dedicated that time. And I just wanted to talk about that potential controversy. Now, bringing back old models, this is something that Blizzard has been doing a lot of. They've been bringing back, for drops, certain mounts that were limited, like the Feldrake for Twitch viewer drops and things like that. Bringing back certain mounts and things for the trading post that they've introduced, the monthly kind of like in-game loot that you can farm through tokens. And there's been a lot of reuse of these existing assets that were previously limited edition that players really felt special for having. You could think like going to like the release of Pokemon 2000 and getting that limited edition card from the movie that you could only get for going to the movie, that type of experience and personal connection, which is getting undermined a little bit when they do changes like this. Now, I think it is fine to bring back existing assets, but you've got to recolor them or retint them. So one of the first things that they reused and that I can recall was the Amani Warbear, which was the original bear mount from Zul'Aman in the Burning Crusade, which you had to complete the 10-man raid and finish it in time to be able to get this mount, and it felt like limited edition moving forward. I remember it being included in the Wrath of the Lich King cinematic, and I felt awesome for having achieved that and being able to ride on it in that expansion. And when they brought Zul'Aman back in Cataclysm, I believe it was, as a 5-player dungeon, you could get the Amani Warbear back for something that was ridiculously easy in comparison for the difficulty at the time for the Amani Warbear back in TBC, but they recolored it. It was slightly less vibrant than the original Amani Warbear, and I think it's this type of tint change that needs to happen for a lot of these old existing sets to come back, because a lot of them look really good, and it's kind of sad that you can't get them, and there's lots of cool combinations of transmogs that you could make. So I think bringing back old transmogs or old mounts and giving them a slightly different tint or a slightly different recolor is appropriate. This way, the original value stays intact for the achievement at the time. And I'm also, could be brought into debate for this type of stuff is the elite PvP gear sets in the past. Like myself, I don't have the Primal Gladiator Warrior set, which is like this red transformer looking spike armor. It's like one of the most awesome looking sets in the game, and I really regret not getting it, but part of me is happy I don't have it. I didn't manage to hit that achievement, and all the other warriors who have definitely deserve it. But bringing back those transmogs and those sets in a different color, so you can identify, oh, this player was an OG elite player from that expansion because they have that original tint color on it, and it'll have it on the name of the transmogged item. And then if you recolor or retint, it has slightly different name, slightly different modification, so you can clearly tell which pieces of gear are markers of skill, like a black belt for martial arts or something like that, and which ones are just, oh, this was a cool looking set, and it's like really sad that nobody's walking around with this set anymore. Maybe they're unsubscribed and they're just not coming back, or they're not using it, and people really want to be able to get one of these sets. So it's still holding its original value, and it's still holding its original flavor and its connection of achievement. That's something that I think is really important, given the fact that it seems like they are pretty willing to bring back, if they bring this back, bring back anything in terms of transmogs and mounts. So let's dig a little deeper to make sure. Many players are anxiously awaiting the return of Naxxramas in patch 10.1.5, bringing back previously removed content such as crafted gear and unique drop appearances. However, an additional feature might be available with Naxxramas in Fractures of Time, the possibility of crafting tier 3 gear. Data mining evidence suggests that there will be a series of crafts that will allow players to craft the coveted Naxxramas tier set, previously only limited to the black market auction house. In this post, we go through all the known information on possible tier 3 crafting. This article is written using data mine information from the patch 10.1.5 PTR. The content describes described in this article is encrypted on the PTR and will likely not be testable until the patch goes live. So we won't really know until the patch actually goes live. They've got the corrupted crafting and lamented crusader gear. The possibility of crafting tier 3 gear comes from a series of crafts that can be obtained from Naxxramas. The first indication is a series of items that are used to repair certain pieces of gear. These come from epic patterns that can be learned by those skills in classic tailoring, leatherworking, or blacksmithing, and require a plethora of old world mats, as well as new materials that are added this patch. So it's going to be a little bit more detailed to be able to craft one of these. So repair a piece of lamented crusader's equipment with corrupted materials, partially restoring it to its former glory. The resulting item will become a bind on account, and the desecration can be purified by a mage, priest, or warlock who is willing to acquire the necessary reagents. So this does look like crafted gear from the Naxxramas raid. We are definitely assuming that it is tier 3. It could be something entirely different. But my guess would be it's something, akin to that to get people really involved with this. They brought back Zul'Gurub, and I think you could get the previously removed, it was like a Hell Reaver, but it was green from Zul'Gurub. And they've been bringing back like these old transmog runs that you can go through. So this is definitely making me think that this is probably going to be tier 3, or at least leaning towards it. These look similar to what the tier pieces were, but not all of them, honestly, based on the icon of the gear. Might be another thing to give it away as possibly being tier 3, but there's going to be a lot of reagents that you're going to have to grind here, be it new or old expansions. And purifying a piece of gear should give you a piece of tier 3 gear. You can see the appearances for each tier below. I mean, this thing is making it seem even more so that it is actually going to be tier 3 gear, and these do not look like retints of the currently existing tier 3 gear. So for those of you that have this, I feel like this is going to be a huge hit to the value that you hold for your account and the certain kind of rarity and collectability of the things in World of Warcraft, because this would be one of the biggest compromises, I think, from previously existing sets. You could argue pretty much every other raid is still available. You could still go back and get their transmogs. I would somewhat make the debate that those transmogs should even be retinted after the raid is over, so that you can have clear identifying markers of players who achieved the difficulty of whatever content it is, dungeons or raids at that time, versus players that are going back and farming the old content. So that way it's always beneficial to make sure that you're playing the best that you can in the current patch, rather than waiting for 3 expansions to farm the raid by yourself, and never actually joining a group or accomplishing or achieving anything. Not to take away from people who like to run transmogs to get stuff like that. I think that's fine, but having some differentiating markers between the currently assessed value of this gear based on its achievement at the time, just by retinting it, just by recoloring a little bit, it would go a long way. Because I feel like this right here, like, this is making me think, like, are they going to give Spectral Tiger away on like a BlizzCon ticket or something? Because this is definitely crossing one of those lines for how much people have invested. What does it mean for like MoP challenge mode stuff? Is that going to come back when they start looking at MoP stuff potentially? Because right now they're just looking at Naxxramas. They looked at Zul'Gurub. We will have to see. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. What do you think? Do you agree with me bringing the old mogs back but retinting them, recoloring them, or is it just fine to bring them back like this? I think ultimately what happens is if they bring these back, people are just going to get bored of it and eventually just stop using it because it's so common. Everyone's going to have it, and that's what's happened with like 99.9% of things that are transmoggable that are very easy to get, that I have seen so far. You'll just get it, looks cool for a week, everybody's got it, and then they forget that they have it and it goes into the transmog void. So I would really not like to have those pieces of transmog go down like that. But other than that, just wanted to give you this quick update for this because it was some pretty big breaking news. If you enjoyed this type of video, want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational, entertaining content, smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated.